Untamed is going to be untamed. It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is.
She was put back on the rolls, and I verified with that clerk, can you see if she's active or inactive? And she checked, and that deceased family member was marked active.
Okay, so she had a dead family member taken off the rolls 20 years after this person died and then put back on the rolls, meaning somebody was voting under the name of her dead family member, and she's the Speaker of the House in Michigan. So how big a problem, how widespread do you think this really is?
Well, you know, first of all, I don't really need to quantify how widespread it is. The fact that it happens in even one case is enough for me to believe there's a law violation. And so, you know, what's interesting is the left keeps moving the goalposts. So first they said this doesn't happen or it's extremely rare. Well, actually, the review so far this last year of approximately between 50 and 60 million voter records, which states have voluntarily uploaded or we've gotten from them, has shown hundreds of thousands, over 300,000 dead people on the voter rolls, and that's just a slice of the voter rolls. And we have referred tens of thousands of potential non-citizens who are on the voter rolls. And that's a lengthier process, Rob, because we don't want to accuse anybody wrongfully. And so we have to go through checking a number of different databases, sources, sometimes court records to determine whether this person became a citizen or not. And then finally, we reach a conclusion. And if that non-citizen voted in a federal election, we're referring those cases for federal prosecution. And there are some prosecutions like that that are being worked up by my friends in the U.S. Attorney's office.
Well, happy Monday. I just, here we go. That's better. Makes it look like I'm wearing a tie. 300,000 people. Now, they're just talking about dead voters. Today we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about the fact that we've been waiting on the SAVE Act. 82% of the American people believe that the SAVE Act should be passed. So why is it that they're not passing the SAVE Act? Now, I don't believe that the SAVE Act will actually solve all of the problems. It'll just take chess pieces off the table. But what if it stops 20%, 30%, 40%? I believe if we pass the SAVE Act, we're able to implement the fact that there aren't any mail-in ballots, that will eliminate large parts of the fraud, not just all over the country, but more selfishly what's happening in Colorado. And if that happens, how many of the seats turn from blue to red? And how many does that affect across the entire country? Now, there's other things that have to happen, and I do realize they're working on some things, and there's some 3D chess that is in play related to what President Trump is doing, and he doesn't have another election. He can't be elected for another 4 years, barring any sort of changes and declaration of war, which could happen. We are stuck. We are stuck with what can only be described as inefficient leadership on both sides. And I want you to see this because they're starting to unravel. You can't go anywhere. You can't go onto X. You can't go onto Facebook. You can't go anywhere without them talking about election fraud. It's everywhere. Every post that you see, whether it's from the Skiff or from Rasmussen or from Patrick Byrne or from any of them, you'll have all of these things that point to anomalies and things that are happening in our elections from coast to coast. It's the haves versus the have-nots. And the haves are stealing the voice of pretty much everyone across the table. But you'd be hard-pressed not to recognize that that has led to this degradation in our society and this fatigue that's happening in our population. And it's not just a Republican fatigue or a Democrat fatigue or an independent fatigue. I'd say the entire country feels like it's been betrayed. But here's a post that Patrick put up. He's been keeping this quiet for quite a bit. We've been keeping this one quiet. It's time to focus. Recently, there was an election in California regarding gerrymandering. Riverside County, California had 45,000 more ballots than people who voted. Sheriff just got a warrant to count it himself. This just happened. So how in the world would you have 45,000 more voters than you do that voted than you do people that actually live in that area? The fraud in our country when it comes to elections is so pronounced and so easy to see that it's hard. They don't have an argument, and like most arguments, they start with dog whistles, like it's racist or it's homophobic or this is the most problematic. This is the most problem. It's going to stop it's going to absolutely destroy anybody's ability to vote. And here you go, Chuck Schumer, that's arguing against the SAVE Act. 82%. I want to put it out there. 82% of the public, Democrat, Republican, Independent, collectively, that's more than 4/5 of the country. I mean, they talk about democracy, support it, but Chuck Schumer now is your daddy. Go ahead and play it.
We will not let this evil legislation pass. Thank you, everybody.
No Jim Crow 2.0.
No Jim Crow 2.0. No Jim Crow 2.0. All right.
82%, so the non-stupid part of the population, all believes that the SAVE Act will take pieces off the table and it will normalize elections across the country, except Chuck Schumer and the people that are in power. Even Fetterman is a more reasonable, more true north individual than what we have representing ourselves on both sides of the aisle. Because remember, John Thune is actually stopping us from getting to the place where we pass the SAVE Act as well. John Thune. And if the Republicans weren't listening to AIPAC and others that have been stealing your voice forever, the lobbyists and special interests, we'd already have it passed. And we'd have no mail-in ballots and everyone would show up and they would actually vote. And if they had to put their finger in ink, maybe that would be another way to do it. But just to show you just how bad it's getting in our country, check this out. Newsmax just publicly called for the arrest of Hussein Obama.
It should shake every single American in their shoes. I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016. We must, absolutely must, hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history. James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting in July 28th in the Oval Office. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years. It undermined a sitting, duly elected president. It sabotaged administration. It framed a 3-star general. It destroyed and ripped this country apart. We had a constitutional crisis, the likes of which I don't think any American can fully comprehend. It is atrocious, and every single one of them must be held accountable.
Yeah, and of course.
So here's the problem. Let me just be the one in the room that's having a conversation about the grandstanding that's happening here. He wasn't the only one. And this has been going on longer than when President Barack Obama was in office. It's been going on long before then. I mean, you had Susan Rice that was screwing up the sovereignty of other nations around the world. You go back to 2004 when it all started, when they were building systems to circumvent the voice of people, not just in the United States, but around the world. And you have Hillary Clinton that during that time said that the American people were some of the dumbest human beings on the planet. She even thought, I mean, comparatively, I think she was comparing us to the Somalis, that their IQs somewhere in the mid double digits. But we let this happen. Now they're going to put it on and say, okay, we're going to make Barack Obama our example, and they have enough information to put him in jail, to throw him in jail for sedition. Well, what about the voice of the American people? What about the fact that they've been stealing that voice forever? And the media has done a really good job of standing up people and saying, hey, nothing to see here. We got something going on over here. Hey, let's go bomb Iran. Let's do all this other stuff. We have another country in the middle of the Middle East that basically is using the United States as a proxy. And you could say, I support Israel. Go ahead, support Israel. You can support Israel all you want. I'm not anti-Israel. I'm not anti any country. But I'm being forced to choose. And that by itself is un-American. You know, I was driving down the street, I-25. I was driving down the street this weekend, and I was going to different assemblies for the governor's race. And I started at one part of the state. And by the way, pretty awesome. I was in a helicopter. I told them I was going to fly in a helicopter. So I got in a helicopter up in Erie. I went to Front Range helicopter tours. And Joe Mattress, the guy up there that runs it, awesome guy. I got in the helicopter and he flew me down to go to the assemblies, landed just outside, went inside, had a speech, got back in the helicopter and took off. So it was pretty fun. It was I want to make assemblies great again, make them fun again. But as I was coming back down the road, I saw the sign up top that says Slava Ukraine. And he had all these Ukrainian flags with American flags. And I'm thinking to myself, piss off. I don't support Ukraine. I support America. I support my American brothers and sisters. But we somehow have muddied the water and made it so we have to support one country over another over there as if we're playing in a football pitch, which we're not. And here's something else. You got guys like Dan Bongino and you got Kash Patel, and frankly, I've kind of stayed out of the fray a little bit. I'm just going to wait my turn to see how things go. I'm more concerned about getting Tina Peters out of jail, getting rid of mail-in ballots, being more tactical about what we can do in Colorado, and kind of expanding that across the country. How do we give back the voice to the people? And frankly, if the American people choose to put in the dumb dinosaurs that they have in there right now that could barely speak, like Mitch McConnell on one side or even Chuck Schumer on the other, then so be it. We deserve what we get. But you have to let the people vote for those people. But when it comes to our administration and the people that stood in there, Dan Bongino's, the problem I have with Dan Bongino is not Dan Bongino so much as it is that he quit on the American people. He was in there for a year. He's like, oh, I'm getting out, right? I've sacrificed enough. Not sacrificing anything, by the way. But he got called out. He got called out because he knew up front, and he's like, hey, sit down, slave, that there were problems with the Epstein files. Remember when it first came out and they had the folders and everyone was at the White House, and I handed like, we got all the information. Turns out that as they started to release it, it was information that was released almost a decade ago, before. And so there was no new information. They hid all that information. And then all of a sudden, in Trumpiest style, he says, fine, just release all the information, 3 million documents, largely takes President Trump out of the fray. But a lot of other people were in the fray. A lot of other people were directly involved with this diabolical individual. And the person that tried to cover that up was, Dan didn't do anybody any favors. He said, if you saw what I saw, you'd be disgusted. But yet he wouldn't tell us what he saw. He only stood in the way and then said, hey, we're going to go after truth tellers. And he spent the better part of the last 3 or 4 weeks attacking truth tellers. Blocked me, blocked a bunch of other people for just asking questions. And that's when you know you have a paper tiger. That's when you know you have somebody that just does the bidding of whoever puts the little mouthpiece behind them to make the little puppet talk. But Ivan Raiklin, he's been pretty loud about this. He's been loud about the fact that, frankly, the American people are not getting what they want on any side of any aisle. They're just more towards this idea that we're indentured servants, slaves. But they called him out. They saw him in the thing, and I don't know who was doing the talking, but they had something to say to Dan Bongino. So go ahead and play it. Got it.
You're a pedophile protector. A pedophile protector. Pedophile protector. I was a cop for 9 years. You're a pedophile protector, faggot. You're a pedophile protector. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you.
I don't know who was with Ivan, but I will tell you this: Ivan put up a post afterwards. He sent it to me, but we're going to get to that in a minute. You can like Ivan, not like Ivan. You can like Patrick Byrne, say he's CIA. You can do all of those things. Everyone wants to discredit everyone else. The only people that I actually stand behind right now are the ones that are actually doing the fighting. They're actually standing up and doing the things that they said they would do for the people, not this, I'm going to be this, John Thune. Again, another betrayer, another person that would just shit on the American people because he thinks that, that we don't matter. That nobody matters except for the people in Congress. Sit down, shut up. We'll tell you how much money you can keep of your paycheck, and here's all the new regulations we're going to put into place. And it's like putting the stones on people's chests. Sooner or later, it gets to the point where you just don't have there's no more breath left. And that's in essence what they're doing to the American people and what they're doing in this country. So we're going to have a guest on. His name's Joe Evans. He's an Army vet, and he's an Idaho Senate candidate. He's running for U.S. Senate. And he's a lifelong Idaho resident. I will tell you the good part of Idaho, although we had that woman on before that showed just how bad the Republican Party is in Idaho, and the representatives are there. So he's a U.S. Army veteran and an advocate for individual liberty, personal responsibility, and limited government. He's raised in Idaho with values shaped by his family, hard work, service, and lived experience rather than politics. He's running to provide Idaho with representation that answers to the people, not Washington insiders or special interests. So his platform does focus on fiscal responsibility, strong border security, Second Amendment rights, protecting Idaho's rural and family values, and reducing overreach by state and federal government. And he believes, I think, in what I believe, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him about this yet. So we're gonna ask him some pretty cold questions. So Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that. And by all means, let's get this started.
You got the beard action going, so I got to give that to you. On a scale of 1 to 10, you got a 12. That works.
Well, this is actually trimmed up and cleaned up. It's starting to get a little shaggy again, but I used to have it down to nearly my man nipples. So,
Joe, Idaho, we had some people on that basically said that the Idaho, internally, inside of Idaho, the mechanisms of leadership, you have a supermajority in the legislature for Idaho, and they will not pass laws that favor the American people inside of Idaho. They keep kicking the can down the road, and they have people that say that they're Republicans that frankly are standing against the people. So how do you reconcile running as a Republican? It's a hard question to ask you. Reconcile running as a Republican in Idaho, knowing that you have such betrayal happening in your own party against the people in Idaho currently.
Okay, because Idaho's a one-party state. We can talk about it all we want. We can talk about whether or not you're walking in a party that's full of betrayal, backstabbing, good old boys. And yeah, it is all those things. But the thing is unless you are running as a Republican, you don't stand a chance of actually obtaining any seat or any position within the state of Idaho to make change in either the politics or the Republican Party. You literally have to go inside in order to start cutting away at the fat and the corruption and everything else. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to run as a libertarian and point out all the bad things. Libertarians get somewhere between 3 to 5% of the vote. 2 years.
Well, no,
4 years.
I don't disagree with you, Joe. I don't. That's the problem. The problem is that if you're a Democrat, then it benefits you to run as a Republican in Idaho, and then to obstruct the ability for things that cross. We call those rhinos, but we're seeing more and more of these Judases that are not just standing against the Republican Party. They're standing things that are antithetical to being an American.
Thing is, I hate to see a slam Judas like that because these are actually traitors coming in from the outside. They aren't friends of Jesus from the start. They aren't friends of the people of the state of Idaho. So what we run into problems right now is a lot of the good old boy network. And yeah, we got rhinos coming in. We got Democrats coming in. We have people who have come in from out of state who claim to be Republicans, who continue to perpetuate laws, regulations, legislation that completely defeats everything that Idaho stood for a lot of them come in and say, hey, we're fresh from California, we're fresh from Colorado, and we are here to save you from yourselves. And it's like,
you need a daddy. Is what you're talking about. You need a daddy.
Don't need saving.
You need a daddy. Call you daddy. Call you daddy. Who's your daddy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, we deal with that on a regular basis. We're dealing with legislation right now that's a solution looking for a problem. These are things that don't happen in Idaho because Idaho grew up different. We talk about our politics. The corruption here in the state, both good, the bad stuff, as well as what works on a positive note, is who you sit next to in church. Most of these people either deal with a corrupt congregation that just gets on board with everything that happens, or they're actually part of a very strong central community, where you see that religious support, where you see that community support in Jesus, in prayer, in meeting, for what is a state that allows a religious people to choose. Now Idaho's got a little bit of a problem right now. More than 50% of the state, our occupants, our voters, our registered voters in the state, were not born here. They didn't grow up in Idaho. They don't understand Idaho's culture that they came to save. And they're trying to tell us that there are more important things like moral legislation. And we start taking a look at some of their legislation and it goes, I get where you're coming from, but it's not a problem here.
Okay, so let's back up. I need to digest.
Yeah.
My in-laws live in Driggs, Idaho. So I have spent the better part of 24 years in Idaho. I understand the ethos there very well. I've spent a lot of time there. And my wife went to school in Pocatello, Idaho.
Nice.
So I like to believe that my wife is from the state, understands it there as well. But you're right. Just a number, 27% of the people that represent you in government today at the state level were not born in Idaho.
Yeah.
And that have not spent a significant amount of time in Idaho, that going back over 10 years. So you have a lot of people that are actually representing Idaho that are in the Idaho House, in the legislature, that don't represent you. Or at least understand that culture that you're talking about.
Correct.
Okay, so who makes the rules, Joe? Who is it that pulls? I know who the one that pulls the levers here in Colorado. It's Phil Anschutz, right? I mean, This is Phil Anschutz state. Matter of fact, if there was a king of Colorado, his name would be Phil Anschutz, and I think he sits above the governors and everyone else, and gets to dictate who's going to win what. Who's the Phil Anschutz of Idaho?
It's actually an interesting discussion right now because I can't really say who. If anybody, I would have to say it's probably Jim Rich, who is my opponent right now, or more to the point, his wife, who actually functions as the treasurer for both him as well as the governor of the state of Idaho, Brad Little.
Who's the billionaire? Who's the billionaire in Idaho that runs things? There's got to be at least one.
Frank Vandershoot is the richest man in the state. And he actually doesn't have an awful lot of influence over the politics itself. We have corporations that have more influence. St. Luke's is the largest employer in the state.
St. Luke's the same one that sued Ammon Bundy?
Yep.
Yeah.
Same one.
With the corrupt settlement against Ammon that frankly wouldn't have withstood any sort of scrutiny in any other state? That one?
That one. Yeah, so they're the largest employer. They influence an awful lot of who gets elected simply because they have their invested interests. They are a healthcare provider.
Who runs St. Luke's?
The board. And I can't honestly tell you who's the board of St. Luke's, But considering how things are currently traded, I'd say 30% of it's probably BlackRock and Associates.
Okay.
And you also got the other consideration, the IACI, Idaho Association of Commercial Corporate. Anyway, their board members are literally every major corporation in the United States, and they are the leading faction within the Idaho Republican Party right now. They own enough individuals within the state legislature in order to make sure that at least 90% of their preferred legislation gets through. And right now that also includes the E-Verify, which keeps getting stalled out, and several other forms of legislation as well on those fronts.
Whew. Okay, let's go back to your platform for a minute, because I'm trying to figure out all the states, and I know that there's always, I know there's always a person. There's always a person that's in the head of that. I can't seem to figure it out for Idaho, which means it's typically an outside influence and or a group of people that are running around like they're the Black Road Regiment, but on the bad side.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem is they are on the outside, but there's enough interfaces in the state of Idaho in order to keep the kingmakers somewhat hidden behind the scenes. We have our dominant politicians who seem to have a significant influence over who actually succeeds, who gets elected, whether or not certain legislation is ever seen in this state legislature, whether or not it ever makes it to the governor's desk. So trying to say there is one specific kingmaker, I don't believe that's the thing. However, we do have a board that has a significant influence over all of that.
Well, I mean, let's talk about that influence. I mean, you have a Republican governor, a Republican supermajority in both legislative chambers. You have a Republican attorney general, and yet I have to talk about this piece because I think it's important, because this again is a universally across the board, Democrat, Republicans, Independents. They don't want illegals here in the country that are doing bad things. They want them out. So why is it that you can't get any enforcement, any cooperation at all with ICE or sanctuary, get the bans lifted, get all that stuff? And how is it that can't happen in a state that is run by quote unquote Republicans?
That's really a darn good question. We can go back to it over a number of different issues, but when it really comes down to it, Idaho is a slave state and always has been. It was resettled largely by people who fled the South in order to avoid prosecution following the Civil War. A lot of that mentality came with it. It had to change forms, but when you look at what goes on here in the state of Idaho, the state of Idaho is one of 4 states in the United States that's allowed to export prison labor. So we can reallocate them to, meatpacking plants. And the meat they pack in those plants can be distributed all across the United States. Furniture that they make, anything that they do in the prison or through work release programs. One of 4 states that's allowed to do that. We export nonviolent offenders here in this state to for-profit prisons in other states. I think Arizona and Texas are currently right now housing 2,000 of our felons who are nonviolent offenders, usually related to drug charges of some kind, without violence attached, and they're using them for labor and various other things in their states.
So not a violation of the 13th Amendment at all.
Well,
it just doesn't make any sense. Make sense.
It is the definition of the 13th Amendment. Okay, we don't call it slavery because these are prisoners that are serving their time.
Yeah.
Okay, the 13th Amendment allows prisoners to be used in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it is in the Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United States says you can use prisoners as slaves.
Yeah.
And Idaho is one of those that maintains a high criminal code in several different areas for nonviolent offenders, specifically so that they can keep using nonviolent offenders in that capacity in this state. So whether you're talking prison labor or immigrant labor, whether it's legal or illegal, fraudulent or non-fraudulent, this is a mentality among employers and the wealthy within the state of Idaho. They do not want to see their cheap labor go away.
So that,
and they have enough people in. Yeah, go ahead.
So this gets into, though, the fact that it's not that the people that are running it are part of an ideal, right? They're part of an ideology that they can just switch jerseys. Like, hey, I'm going to put a Republican jersey on right now. I'm going to run out there, beep, 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 beep. But it violates the very tenets, the very idea of what it means to be a Republican. I mean, if we're even looking at it, I mean, is that, am I wrong? Am I wrong in saying
no, you're not wrong.
All right.
But the thing is Idaho's been a conservative state. It's been that kind of state since its inception. Okay, yeah, we had some initial Republicans come in and create our Constitution, founding documents, but it didn't take long after that in order for everything to shift around. Okay, you were Democrats coming in. They came in from the South. They were running from the law.
Well,
so they
for
came in
Republicans like these, what do you need Democrats for? I mean,
well, the thing is, we were, as much as some people like to complain about it, Dixiecrats ran Idaho right up until the Southern strategy came along with Nixon, and then you saw everybody shift. Mm-hmm. We were looking at Frank Church. He was a Democrat, but he was a Democrat before the Civil Rights Act. We've had several other Democrats that were very prominent. Cecil B. Andrus, again, he was a Democrat before the Civil Rights Act. So here we were Democrats. All of a sudden, the Southern strategy comes around, and we've been Republican ever since. Mm-hmm. It's not like they changed jerseys recently.
Yeah. No, I mean, the ideals, that brings me down to, I mean, you're running for Senate to represent holistically the state of Idaho in Congress, in the Senate, okay? But we could start talking about the frustration, and I'm torn because this gets to the slave state that you were talking about before. But Idaho parents in rural communities, and even if you get into Boise or other areas, this is a Republican stronghold. The state is a Republican stronghold. Then why is it that you still have this CRT, DEI, this gender policies where there are actual teachers in the state that are trying to convert, groom, whatever you want to call it, children, saying you could be a pink dinosaur, you could be a cat, right? How is it that that's still pervasive in a state that is supermajority Republicans, and yet you're still inundated with all of these policies that are confusing and destroying our young people?
Okay. And this is an interesting issue. Reason why is because in a lot of cases, I believe that a lot of the legislation that has happened, okay, now the legislation you're talking about has occurred. Okay, so most of the stuff that you're talking about, it's currently criminal in the state of Idaho. Okay, that stuff is passed. Okay, we've had enough people do the virtue signaling in order to successfully pass all that, all good. Okay, whatever. Now, the thing is, the state of Idaho has always had a problem with mental health in this state. Okay, we, I believe, are currently fourth highest suicide rate for young men in the United States. Okay, none of this legislation is going to change.
You're number one, 18 to 25, just so you know. You're number one in the country, 18 to 25 in suicides among young people. Okay, right. Just so we're clear, yeah.
And that was before any of this legislation, and this legislation is going to change that rate. We are still going to be number one in suicide rates among young men 18 to 24.
How is that possible? I mean, it's a beautiful state. I mean, you know what I mean?
Oh, it's an amazing state. Okay. But a lot of this goes back to the religion that actually makes it a great state and very personable. And because an awful lot of us that grew up here as young men, the standards, the moral standards we're so high. And we're being brought up in a world where those moral standards don't mean anything.
They don't apply.
They don't apply.
Non-applicable. Yeah, I agree with that.
Right? We want to work hard. We want to do the right thing. We want to take care of our family. We want to take care of our friends. These are things we want to do. They're bred into us. It's part of our culture because of the way we were raised, it's the churches we went to, the communities that were built around us. And it's like as soon as we turn 18 and we actually get access to the rest of the world, we begin to understand all of the values that we were taught do not guarantee success in the world we're being pushed out into.
Okay, so I know I want to talk about your policy too. I want to talk about that, but I'm fascinated by the other things that are getting stripped from Idaho. So you have all these regulations. It's as if it's like a millstone you're putting on the chest of the people of Idaho. We have the same problem in Colorado. And the more I talk to people on the Republican side and Democrat side, the more it becomes a uniparty effect of just trying this power grab, this thirst to make it more difficult for people to live in their communities. I'm talking about farmers, business owners. It's not federal regulations, it's state regulations by Republicans that are putting this stuff in place, and it is destroying innovation.
Absolutely. With every turn, there's something happening that's saying, it's more important we create felonies over moral legislation than it is that we create a world in which our children can grow into and succeed, with the moral standards that they're taught in church, with the ability to make informed consent, informed choices, about what it is they want to do about their future. Right now, the state's being strip mined. It's been strip mined for the last 50 years.
Yeah.
We used to have pioneers in technology here in the state of Idaho. We had founding companies that created money, created an economy here in the state. Boise Cascade, has since been sold off to Georgia Pacific. Morrison Knudsen, another company that, we built the
Georgia Pacific. Wasn't that bought up by Berkshire Hathaway or something?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
It all was purchased through venture capital, then pieced out piecemeal, properties sold for what could be made for high profit. But it's like Morrison Knudsen, built great dams. They built Teton Dam down in Nevada. They were mobile communities. It's funny, when I was deployed to Afghanistan, one of the places I was working, I came to understand one of the dams Morrison Knudsen built was one of the largest hydroelectric dams in Afghanistan. And it was, ironically, used in order to irrigate all of the poppy fields that were in Edmond province while I was there.
Which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, but since the U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan, poppy fields that were operating at 90% are now down to less than 2%. So who is running the poppy fields exactly? just a question. Just a question.
You don't want that answer. Because that gets into a whole different ball of wax. But the thing is, these companies were companies that were founded companies here in the state of Idaho. They made the economy here. Idaho kids would go in, get jobs with these companies. They'd stay with them for 20, 25 years. They'd retire with them. Around 40 years ago, they started getting picked up by vulture capitalists and pieced out. And it's like right now, we do not have a single native corporate organization here in the state of Idaho, except for St. Luke's, which I already told you it's been bought up by BlackRock, and it's just a software company that owns a hospital.
You said it's a software company that owns a hospital because of BlackRock.
Well, they were a software company that owned a hospital before Black.
I mean, you better be careful. You get more you talk like this. I mean, becoming a senator is gonna be difficult. You start talking about that, we're gonna have to call you Bundy.
Well, thing is I'm not quite as hardcore as Bundy was. You know, Ammon had
He's a
his
good
thing.
man, though. He's a good man.
Well, even at his best, you know, he only polled 17% in his bid for governor as a independent. Yeah, and that shows you just how rock solid the Republican Party's hold is on this state, you know, and the individuals in it. Now, I get an opportunity to talk with you. I get an opportunity to be honest about how I feel about what's going on in the state. You know, there's certain venues in which I cannot have that conversation here. But that comes back to the issue of who owns Idaho. You know,
well, I can tell you who there, and that's why I asked the question. By the way, I'm interested in understanding who's the wizard behind the curtain. And the more I get involved in this race for governor here in Colorado, and the more I start exploring other races in other states, the more I understand how the sausage is made, and that we're talking about. There's an agenda. There's an outcome, and it verily, if ever, you can become the grease to the wheel, or you can be the squeaky wheel. You know, Thomas Massey did it. You know, Marjorie Taylor Greene did it. I mean, they stood up for, I think, maybe too loud in certain areas. So how do you survive in this and do good for? And this is a question for you. How do you do good for the people of Idaho and represent them well, while still understanding the stink of the machine that is so pronounced on both sides of the aisle? It's like a butthole, right? I mean, you're just like sniffing the edges of the butthole, and it smells like shit. It keeps pushing shit out. But Democrats and Republicans just like swarm in the butthole.
Well, again, like you said, that's how the sausage is made. Yeah. You know, as bad as it is, it stinks. Now, like you said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, Thomas Massey, Ron Paul, you know, they've all been able to get in. They've all been able to be the squeaky wheel. Yeah. You know, but the thing is the machine will tolerate, you know, 3 or 4 squeaky, you know, bearings, you know, in the wheel. You know, it's once they start getting more, you know, right now, like I said, IACI probably holds about 75% of the seats in the Idaho state legislature. You know, that's the pro-corporate. Now, those are the people who bought out, who come in and are basically extracting all the labor out of the state of Idaho. We no longer have a native wealth, you know, that's actually employing the bulk of the state. You know, even Frank Vandershoot, you know, extremely wealthy, was able to do extremely well, wealthiest man in the state of Idaho. You know, he's gone and he submitted for a significant number of H-1B visa exceptions in order to employ for his company here in the state of Idaho. You know, Chobani, again, farm immigration, you know, farm immigrant labor, you know, whether it's legal or not, you know, depends on who he's contracting in order to bring his labor in.
All right. Well, tell me this, Joe. What are you going to do different? Who's in your seat now? Who's in the seat you're going to try and occupy?
The seat that I'm currently running for is occupied by Jim Risch. Okay, Jim Risch is accepted over $2 million from AIPAC. Right? He's right. Okay, you know, and that's what he's taking from AIPAC. That's not considering what he's taking from IACI in order to support their role here in the state of Idaho from the federal positions. Now, we have two senators right now. One of them sits on the banking committee, Senate banking, and the other one sits on the Senate Foreign Affairs, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Okay, Jim Risch is the one who sits there. And he got to be real good friends with John McCain before McCain died, and he's picking up one of his favorite quotes about how Russia's just a gas station with an army. Yeah, here we are. He is supporting the current actions against Iran. He is supporting Israel's misbehavior, and he's continuing to support drawing us further and further into the idea of boots on the ground in Iran. Now, true, I may be putting words into his mouth, but at the same time, he hasn't exactly stepped back from the brink of that. You know, being a sitting member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, you know, he has the ability to say, hey, you know, oversight says step back. You know, he's also one of those who still continues to send $400 million to the Taliban every month. He has the ability to stop the funding to Afghanistan anytime. He hasn't. You know, so this is one of those. He supports foreign aid.
Do you
he
think
supports funding terrorists?
Do you think that the apparatus we have in our country is fundamentally broken to a place where we're not going to get an outcome? I think people are looking for a quick outcome, right? Most people are looking for hey, just fix it, right? Put a new tire on it, put a new wheel on it, put a new engine in it, do whatever. People are so fatigued that they're almost at that place where they've lost interest. They have no trust in the apparatus.
Correct. And I've been fighting that for over 10 years now. No trust in the apparatus. Now, admittedly, I was running as a libertarian candidate previously, which is how I know they can get 5% in the state of Idaho. But the thing is each state has its one-party rule, uniparty. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's a Republican state, whether it's a Democrat state, the corruption is the same, and the money that's being taken from the citizens is still going to the good old boys network at the top.
Yeah.
Now, they can dress it all up in different ways, but at the end of the day,
put lipstick
certain
on it.
Individuals in the state keep getting richer.
Okay. So what are you going to do differently? What are you going to do differently? What are you going to do? I mean, look, I like your. I was looking at your platform before I got on. You know, you've served. You understand the elements of war, right? Most people that, you know, I spent 6.5 years over in the Middle East and Africa. I learned Arabic because I didn't want to get killed. So you obviously understand the implications of war, like the consequences.
Yes.
And
yes.
In large part, I don't believe that many people in our country do, on either side of the aisle, right?
No.
They've never seen a kid get blown up or had to pick up body parts or watch a kid die of a common cold. Never seen stuff that, frankly, would shake you to the core or should shake you to the core. So
correct.
What are you going to do differently, Joe? What are you going to do differently when you get there to make sure that the people in your state understand what you stand for?
Oh, God, so many things. First, put an end to foreign aid. Okay. Second, defund every nonprofit organization in the United States. There is absolutely no reason for the U.S. federal government to be funding a single non-government organization. And if those organizations go belly up, they were never a nonprofit. They were a government agency in disguise.
You're talking about USAID, WHO, and some of the other nefarious organizations that have worked around the world under those guises, but really they're CIA, Doctors Without Borders,
right?
You name it.
Doctors Without Borders, USAID, all of it was CIA funding. You know, they go in, they do some grandstanding, they make a few photo ops, they turn around, take the money, start running drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to Afghanistan. Okay, during the time we were there, Afghanistan was responsible for more than 70 to 80% of the global production of opium. Okay, all of that was being funneled through CIA assets into neighboring territories before being distributed throughout the world in order to fund black operations for the CIA that were off the books.
You mean the Freedom Bridge to the north?
Yeah. Yeah, whatever they want to call it.
They call it the Freedom Bridge, and I'm like, are you kidding me? That's like that's where all the drugs went out. It was like a pipeline for drugs.
Oh yeah. You know, during my last deployment there, 2010, 2011, working there with one of the border patrols. You know, he was responsible for over 70% of the opium production leaving, Afghanistan. You know, we were providing direct intel with him in order to support interdiction of smugglers that were not aligned with him. You know, we were supposed to be doing joint ops in order to stop smuggling. We give them the information. When the joint operation showed up, the guys would be dead and the drugs were nowhere to be found. You know, and this was stuff I was doing as an intelligence analyst. You know, direct feed. You know, the colonel that I was providing intelligence to was, turning around and taking what I provided and handing it over to an Afghan general. And like I said, 70 to 80% of the opium production, global opium production, was flowing, between Afghanistan and Pakistan before it was being disseminated throughout the rest of, Southeast Asia, Southwest. There was ridiculous amounts of money that was going through. And we were doing it. And the thing was from day one, we were told to do things that were against our moral code. The bachi-bazi, come on, please. We were sent over to, guard and protect pederasts. The number of officers, liaisons who were shot up and killed because they got too close to a warlord who liked little boys, and it was the little boys who got tired of the nights they spent with the warlord who would end up shooting U.S. soldiers, U.S. servicemen, U.S. Marines. The stuff we were asked to do by the U.S. State Department, by the DOD, in order to accommodate cultural practices.
Well, you're not wrong.
And you wonder why kids come back broken.
Well, I mean, you could argue that, but you could also argue that the reason why they come back broken is because they lose their brotherhood, right? You can hold yourself together, by the way, with a brotherhood. Yeah. Your brotherhood could be like, stop being retarded. If you have a TBI and your brother's telling you you're being retarded, you'll actually listen to your brother because he's like, you're retarded. You're like, okay, I'm retarded. Yeah. Okay. But then you lose that connection and there's no one else to center you. You can't get centered back to that place. It's like a chasm. It's like a hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. It fills up with a lack of hope. All right. Well, how's the campaign going? You're primarying out your guy.
I'm under 60 days right now. So we got about 55, I think. And really, it's going slow. I am an outsider, so I don't have the inside access to funds. I don't have the resources.
Well, you're running on the primary, so you do have access to the GOP's email lists and text lists, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got access to all of that.
Are you hammering?
Don't necessarily have the funds to do anything with it. Do get outreach. I do have my social media accounts, and I've started to receive some donations here since we filed end of March.
Oh, so you just got into the race.
Well, here's the thing. You can declare as far out as you want, but nobody takes any of the primaries seriously until you filed with the state of Idaho to be on the Idaho ballot for the primary.
Okay.
Now, in our case, that filing was done February 23rd through 27th. We had 1 week for the federal races. On the 27th, everybody actually started taking a look at the candidates, and it's like, oh, he's actually serious.
Yeah.
But you're 70 days at that point.
Well, I mean, I think I find the whole process to be fascinating because you, like me, I haven't put a whole lot of effort into the primary because I'm like, look, I'll pitch my case at the assembly. They'll either want me or they won't want me. I'm pretty well known in the state of Colorado. People hate me, people love me. It doesn't matter to me one way or another. More often than not, people that say that they hate me once they meet me don't hate me anymore. Peter Boyle's perfect example. Guy's been in the air for 30 years. I go sit down with him, and now we're buddies, right? We'll go have coffee and ride motorcycles together and just hang out because he's a great guy, and he's like, man, you're the opposite of what I thought you were. And so, I mean, look, I think that you have to take you have a caucus system in Idaho?
No, we will not be using the caucus system, and hopefully they'll be done with that by the end. This will be a ballot. There will be early voting. There will be people able to go into the polls day of, register as a Republican, pick up a Republican ballot. And currently it's...
You're a braver man than I am. I mean, I'm doing the assembly program because that's what we have. We have the caucus, we have the assembly. I think that the representatives in that place can pick, but I just don't trust the election systems because they're fraudulent in every state.
We've actually done pretty good here in the state of Idaho. So Phil McGrain and before him, Lawrence Denny, they were our secretaries of state, and they've done an extremely good job of making sure that the system here in Idaho is auditable as well as accurate. They do a purge, almost monthly. Anybody who has not voted or registered to vote in the last 2 years gets cleaned off the rolls, and you actually have to actively go in order to get back on the rolls. So it's not like you can just sit an election out and be able to vote, 5 years from now. Right. You actually got to go in and take care of your registration. And whether you carry an ID at the polls or not, you still need an ID in order to register to vote.
So you're one of the most sane states out there, besides the mail-in ballots, which I think you should throw all in the trash. There should never be a mail-in ballot. To me, mail-in ballots are.
I get that.
Except for if you're incapacitated, you're in a facility, you're handicapped. Those people should be given. And if you're in the military, the UOCAVA system is total shit. There should be a way for them to actually get their ballots recorded if you're in the military. And right now, that system is largely flawed.
It's broke. It's broke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the one system that's broke,
and it shouldn't be. It's the one system that shouldn't be.
Right?
You're out there risking your life. Hey, who do you want to be president? Ask anyone except for the people that are in the military.
Honestly, that's about the way it goes. Our ability, while deployed, of being able to get that absentee ballot into whatever state,
right,
is so screwed up.
I would agree with you fully. All right, give me your last pitch. How do people support you? How can people that are listening to the show support you? And give me your final pitch of beating the ass of the rhino that's currently in the office.
Okay, I'm Joe Evans. Want to think? Go to ID Joe for Idaho. That's Idaho for Joe at Twitter. Go to Joe Evans for Idaho.com. That's my webpage. You'll be able to go there, take a look at my policies, my procedure, my platform in its entirety. A little bit about me and who I am, who I was, where I've been, and what I've done.
It's pretty impressive, actually, guys. Pretty impressive. Very impressive.
Thank you.
I still want to arm wrestle you just because I think I could beat you, maybe.
And I've been at the top. I've been at the bottom. I understand just about every place you could be at. And I'm here to represent the residents, the citizens of the state of Idaho. Idaho first, America only.
Yeah.
We need to take care of ourselves before we take care of anybody else. Because
I agree with
the house cleaning starts at home.
I agree with that fully.
Yep. Constitution first, Constitution always, limited government. We're going to start looking at an Article 5 constitutional assembly here sometime soon. And if we can't honor the Constitution that we were given in 1786, we are not entitled to modify the Constitution in any way.
Yeah, I don't know where we're heading, but it's I like the fact that we're speaking this way and we're trying to create better solutions for ourselves. But the grip that is in our country of politics has gotten so perverse and gone so down the slope that it's very difficult to see the bottom of the barrel. It's just really muddy. So I pray you get in. I pray that you continue to beat the drum. And Joe, thank you for your service and thanks for coming on. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, Joe. Looking forward to seeing how this turns out. You take care. Stay safe.
All right. God bless you. Yeah, no, look, he gets it. Without reading through the lines, he absolutely gets every bit of it. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to talk to you about a bunch of other stuff. We're going to talk to you about schools and, you know, that it's. We're going to talk about Colorado a little bit. We're going to just kind of focus in on what's happening in Colorado, so that everyone else in all these other states, you can know how blessed you are for the ridiculousness and the retards that we got to deal with here in Colorado. And these people have left the people behind largely. And I said that today, man. I did a 28-minute video that they'll upload. It's on Facebook. I'm going to pull it down and put it up on the other platforms. But, you know, Democrats, independents, and Republicans, they're all the same, man. And I know some of you are like, no, Democrats are retarded. No, retards are retarded. We got plenty of retards on the Republican side, plenty of them, right? But most people are very sensible, just want life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. I got a lot of Democrat friends. Every one of my Democrat friends has a gun. Every one of them. You know, there are some sensible Democrats. And by the way, I think like 40% of my Democrat friends voted for President Trump. All right, let me say that again. I had this conversation with my friend, and I was like, look, Mikey, bro, who'd you vote for? And he goes, bro, I could not vote for Kamala Harris. And he goes, nobody was down with that woman. She's terrible. And I go, who'd you vote for? He goes, I voted, you cannot tell my wife. And I was like, okay, I won't tell your wife. Who'd you vote for? He's like, Trump. And I was like, that's my man. And he's been the one to yell at me over the last 6 years, right? We now are back being friends, but he told me to lose his number. One of the few people that told me to lose his number. There's no election fraud. Now, try to convince him there's no election fraud. He'll be like, you're a retard. And he doesn't care what you are, Democrat, Republican. He's finding his voice. A lot of people are finding their voice right now. So I'm going to, in this commercial break, I want you to consider something. I want you to consider the fact that if we as people can come together and set aside some and really start having conversations academically, institutionally about what the people need, I promise you they want nothing to do with the Democrat or the Republican idea of what it means to be an American, because it doesn't, neither one is lining up. President Trump lines up because he just says, I want to give back the people, just here. Remember what he said in 2016? He's like, what do you have to lose? He's talking to black people. What do you have to lose? Like the Democrats have nothing but shit on you for the last, 50 years. You want to talk about Jim Crow? Man, where do you start? It's a desert. They don't even have food. They have a 7-Eleven that barely is open if somebody didn't go and rob it. All right, think about that. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. Hi, I'm Joe, Supreme Leader of DCF Guns. What is DCF Guns, you ask? We're the best damn gun store and range in the universe. Do we have guns? We have all the guns. We got small guns. We got big guns. We even have beastly guns. We offer all types of training, and we have 5 ranges across our 3 locations. I'm a good shot. And of course, we have all types of ammo. We even have flamethrowers. Woo! We offer incredible membership opportunities, and members save even more on guns, ammo, and accessories. Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. It's hot. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle. All right, so can we talk about what's happening in Colorado a little bit? Let's first start talking about, before I go into all this stuff, let's talk about this video that I put up. And before I got on here, I went and just talked to people, and I was like, listen, Democrat, Republican, Independent, we have a massive problem. We have an ideal that they want to move towards. President Trump's fighting against that machine. Now, that machine says that they're a Democrat, says they're a Republican, but we can see what's happening with the SAVE Act. 82% of the people in the country want what? 82% want to pass the SAVE Act. And there's a large majority of people that if you were to go out there and ask people in Colorado, or you were to ask people pretty much in any state, they're like, hey, listen, we want to fund kids' programs in school. They'd be like, okay, this is why you get tax incentives or entitlements that get approved. Now, if you were to ask someone that's a Democrat in a Democrat environment, do you support gender affirming care, let's say, and you get outside the squeaky wheel, and that means the blue-haired Karen that's retarded, right? And we got a lot of retards. Or the guy that literally was the kid that masturbated in the back of class when they went to school, right? The weirdos. If you get outside the weirdos that, frankly, have found a new home in this radical leftist DSA, Democrat Socialists of America, Antifa types, those people that wear masks, that seethe underneath the spit on themselves, right? If you were to talk to normal people that call themselves Democrat, they would never support any of this. Never. Good. I mean, look, go anywhere. Go anywhere and talk to a black person that is not at a DSA meeting. It's just a regular person out there working. First of all, 30% of them or more will say, I'm for Trump. Because they've survived a lot. So people in the hood, by the way, a vast majority of people in the hood, gang members, you know, Trump's their guy. You think I'm kidding? Go ask. Go just get outside your comfort zone and just walk up and ask them. And you see a lot of those videos where you have influencers that go into those areas and they ask questions and they're like, Trump's my guy. So if that's the case and you get, is it just you get lucky talking to those people, or is that the overall arching feeling of those that are considered invisible? I would tell you that we could solve a lot of the things, and that's what I said in this video, we could solve a lot of the problems that we face as a state if we can stop this moral decay towards this divide that they've created for us. They want to tell us what we believe as Republicans, they want to tell us what we believe as Democrats. When in actuality, there's not either side that is not closely associated with these retards that are tied to the CIA and basically stealing the voice and keeping us divided in this chaos that don't agree. We agree. And if it wasn't the case, then why is it that you have to have a handler on the Democrat side that has to walk in and have a conversation now with the Democrat Socialists of America and negotiate that in Colorado specifically, because they're so far off the reservation that they feel like now they're in power, there's nothing you can do about it. That's what's happened right now. The Democrat Party is in turmoil because you have a normal part of the party, and let's call them the Fettermans. And then you have the outside of the party, which are these radical leftist, Soros-backed individuals, and there's a lot of them because they came out of the same, cooking school. And then you have the weak people who just want to taste that power that'll do whatever they're told to do. And those are what I call the judges and the rotted apparatus of, that's why they drink too much, and frankly, they get themselves so far into it that know how they can get themselves out because they couldn't survive if they weren't tied to the tit of this evil apparatus. But here's something that I wanted you to hear this cut. This was in Colorado, and this talks about the government, and I want you to listen to it very carefully. It's super important. Play it.
Government doesn't produce money, it just takes it. This year, like several others, but probably more so this year, has been overshadowed by our budget issues. And it's amazing how many bills we get that have a zero fiscal note. But having a zero fiscal note doesn't necessarily mean it's a good bill. If you haven't noticed, whenever we've got a bill without a fiscal note, generally what we're doing is regulating others. And that's what this bill does. It just adds more burden, just like many, many, many bills that have preceded it that are impacting our legitimate businesses. If you look back 4 or 5 years, maybe not even that far, we were running surpluses over our Tabor limit of billions. Now, we had to give a lot of that back, and that's because we should, but it also indicated that our business community was thriving, that revenue was coming in, it was overfilling our coffers. That doesn't happen anymore. It's not happening this year. We're not even hitting the Tabor limit. We have destroyed the businesses, and now we're just turning to regulate things that we don't like.
We're regulating things out of existence that we don't like. They're basically violating all of the rights of people in Colorado to defend themselves while putting criminals back on the street. They've ran off one of the largest data companies in the country, Palantir, who moved to Florida in the middle of the night. Businesses now are closing at a rate of 3 times that of what they did 2 years ago. 3 times that. The average business does not last 24 months now. It used to be 31 months. And although 31 months is not a large, it's not a lot of time, 2.5 years, it's reduced itself under the 2-year mark. So now businesses in the state of Colorado don't last on the average of 22 months. So 22 months to spend somebody's life savings on a business only to have regulation and the millstone put upon the chest of the company to put them out of business. Some of the biggest Democrats in this state who run businesses, some are restaurants, I hear it all the time. On the business side, I represent a bunch of these businesses in one of our companies, tech companies, and they say it all the time, Joe, there's no more meat left on the bone. The government has taken everything away from us. And whether you're paying a fee to actually exist in Colorado, in Denver, where you have to pay per employee. So let's say you have 50 employees, you have to pay per employee a tax just for the benefit of being able to hire that person. $10 per person per month, $120 per year. I think it's more than that though. I think Greenwood Village is $5. I think they're $10 or $12. That's just so you can hire an employee. So the state can say, if you want to hire employees, you have to pay us. The city does. That's what Colorado's become. So not only do we have tollways, which favor the elite and say, okay, the elite get to go home early, but if you're a single mom, you have to sit in this line for an extra 2 hours, even though you're the one that needs more time than the other. And the roads are expanding in Colorado to meet the need of more people moving here. Well, that's not true either because they're leaving here, but they're expanding the roads. And as they expand the roads, they don't add roads to make it easier for people in Colorado to travel. They add roads to make it more advantageous for private equity firms and outside organizations to get paid for tollways that favor the elite. Just another tax. And the thing that he was talking about just now was the new requirements for firearm dealers. They have honed in on industries that they want to destroy. A few years ago, it was the Independent Auto Dealers Association. They wanted to destroy it. They got rid of nearly 70% of independent auto dealers, handing the power back to the big conglomerates, which were gobbling up different auto dealers in the state. Now, who did that affect most? Well, that affected the poorest among us, who then had to go figure out a way that how do I borrow money because all these buy here, pay here lots and things went away. And if you don't remember what else they did in Colorado, and I'm going to talk about Colorado for a minute, but it used to be that grandma could watch your kids. Grandma you'd have like 2 or 3 parents that went and, had 3 kids, and you could pay grandma $100 a week, $200 a week to watch your kids. And the state came in and said, you know what? No, we're not getting our piece of that business. So now you have to have a license, you have to have insurance, you have to go to these classes, you have to register with the state of Colorado, and it shot childcare from an average of about $600 a month to nearly $1,500 on the average a month for single moms or for parents. And again, it's untenable for people to have kids now because that's 18 grand a year. And let's say mom goes to work because dad has 56 cents on every dollar that's coming out of his paycheck. So you're trying to live on a one-income household on 44 cents on the dollar. It becomes nearly impossible. Then we talk about oil and gas and what we were able to do there and destroying that entire industry, which pushed out a lot of the tax base that we had inside of the state of Colorado. Tell me I don't understand what's happening. I can tell you right now, I understand fully what's happening in Colorado. And actually, most business owners do because they have to live this every day. So you have oil and gas that goes out the door. Now they're coming for hunters. They don't want people to be able to come to the state in order to hunt. They don't want, you're destroying that entire industry, making it more expensive. Therefore, people aren't going to come to Colorado. Again, eroding the tax base and putting more burden on the people that live here. People are being held hostage in the state of Colorado by people in the legislative branch that frankly have nothing but thirst. They just have a thirst for destruction. These are some of the weakest people on the planet. These are people that have never built anything in their lives, kind of like professors. Most professors are terrible human beings. They're just not very good. Sorry, but that's the reality of it. I think adjunct professors that work in the real world that go into the university setting but have no ability or desire to actually get to make tenure, they just want to be there to help out the young people. They're probably the people we should have giving advice to young people, but they're not. You have professors been there for 20, 30, 40 years, walking corpses that, frankly, are doing nothing but destroying the next generation, telling them that, communism is good. Why? Because they've lived in a communist environment for their entire life. They've gotten money for free to read out of a textbook and try to convince the next generation that they should get rid of capitalism. Capitalism doesn't work. Well, capitalism can't work if you're not following a capitalistic society, which is where we are right now. We are in a consolidation age where the biggest businesses that are consolidating now they can't even survive. That's why you saw Palantir leave. That's why you see companies that have left the state of Colorado based on overburdening regulations. That's why some of the biggest restaurateurs in the entire state, if not the entire country, are slowly but surely winding down businesses in Colorado and getting out and going to places like North Carolina that are relatively untouched, still stained by this radicalist ideology. But at least they can survive a little longer in those environments. You see what's happened to the firearm industry, where a vast majority of people in the state of Colorado own and carry firearms, are now becoming victims in their own environment, where they're seeing that you're not even allowed to have a castle doctrine. You're not even allowed to protect yourself in your own home. The likelihood of you being arrested if you have to brandish a firearm in order to stop a crime from being committed is nearly 100%. It's like 98.8%. And I haven't even started talking about farmers or what they're being forced to do and registering, or, God forbid we talk about some of the other sin taxes that have been created, stuff that they've done up in Central City and Blackhawk in Colorado, how expensive it's gotten for the ski industry, and the fact that they're heavily regulated on their side. There is no relief in sight for the people of Colorado. And Polis sits up there and does these stupid videos where he says, well, it's Colorado time, we could change our jerseys, while he literally shits on everything that has to do with business in the state. This state is dying. It is dying. I'll tell you something else. I have had multiple conversations like, okay, why are you running for governor? I'm running for governor because what is happening in Colorado should not be happening. and recognizing what needs to be done in order to fix it it's debilitating. I look at it and go, there's not a politician that's been in this mix, this soup, over the last 20 years that knows how to fix it. They're too close to the problem. They're part of the problem. And the things that we just talked about, let's add to it. What other things do you want to talk about? Education? Well, over 60% of the education environment, the budget, goes towards administration. That means 40% or less than 50%, again, is left to the benefit of the children. We still don't have the ability to have vouchers. We still don't have the ability to overfund or hand back some of those dollars for homeschooling to those children so they can have equal opportunity in their educational environment. We haven't addressed it. We haven't addressed any of those problems. We just let the pig get fatter and fatter and fatter while we starve our children, quite literally. And you'll see these issues that come up, these mandates that come up that says we're going to change the mills on property tax. Property tax is 3 times that of what it was just 6 years ago. 3 times. Three. And so in response to this, where the shuttering happens, where nearly 23 cents on every dollar, 23% of what they pay for rent. So for every dollar you spend on rent, 23% of that on average is taxes for the place that you live. And so they raise these values and say these are the values of your home, or they're suppressing businesses and destroying businesses, and then they let in the middle all of these people run roughshod criminal activity and criminality all over the place. And then to make the perfect storm of what's happening in Colorado. Look, I understand this very, very, very well, because frankly, other than reading books, I can see it and experience it. But the people that are up there dictating, the Phil Weisers and the Jared Polises and the Jenna Griswold and these radical leftist people that are inside the State House or these lawyers and judges, they have no idea what the average person has to put up with in this state. They're exempt from it. They just give themselves raises and just rely on this grift and things from the outside in order to keep themselves fat and happy outside of the apparatus of having to earn a living. And it leaves you nearly destitute and trying to figure out what state you can run to. We're in trouble in Colorado. We're in trouble. And the more reports I read this weekend, I just went through and read some more reports. I had some meetings with some other candidates. I wanted to see, what the taste was from those other candidates for running. Like, why are you running and what do you plan on doing? And sometimes when people tell you things, you're able to see very clearly that some of them don't have a clue. Don't have a clue. The state of Colorado, in the next 5 to 10 years, if we don't take it back from a Democrat, Republican, Independent, if we could set aside all those little football teams, make our own football team, we'll call it the Colorado, make Coloradans great again, whatever you want to call it. And we start looking at all the different things. We should not have property tax. Property tax should not exist. We should have a consumption-based tax in this state that allows for us to fund education, and we should cut down on what we're doing on the administrative side. And if we don't do that, people are going to leave, values are going to diminish, houses are going to go into foreclosure, people aren't going to be able to pay their bills. The regulation is already doing that, pushing up unemployment. Companies are leaving the state at a record rate. I mean, this is a real problem. Farmers are closing up shop, electing for CRP, and say, "Look, I don't want to. You just give me money to have my land sit empty." And the poor in the state, they can't move anywhere else. So you're turning the state of Colorado, this beautiful state, into a tourist attraction, tourist trap in the mountains, and a poverty trap in the foothills. That's what's happening in Colorado. But we don't have an ocean, and we don't have imports to come in that can save this state. You don't have it. You have a landlocked state that will turn into the equivalent of Sudan, or if we're looking at a state that is of poverty. You've already stripped it of its natural resources and said you're not going to allow oil and gas. Now you're trying to take away natural gas. You haven't negotiated on the water rights that you have, and when we have a season like we just had, we're going to be in another place where the people of Colorado are going to be forced to carry the burden of a drought cycle that is untenable as we pass more water downstream to Arizona and California. 24% of our kids, 23% of our kids graduate proficient in anything. Our education system's falling to the wayside. The trade schools are nearly non-existent. Teachers at a record rate are being arrested for crimes against children. 39 in 2025, 27 so far this year. 27 arrested for crimes against children. 27. And if you're listening to this about Colorado, I mean, you really should be. And you're like, Joe, why are you so calm about this? Because I think the first time ever is that I see it and I'm like, all right, let's just work the problem. I don't see it anymore as a Democrat versus Republican. Because the more conversations I have with Democrats, the more reasonable they are, and the more thirsty the Republicans are just to get in positions of power and authority, and they have no answers for it. I mean, I asked two of the gubernatorial candidates in Colorado, what's your answer for this? And they're like, I have no idea. Well, that means you've never, ever been in a position where your people would go hungry or you go hungry, where you had to pay your people before you paid yourself, where you had to look at opportunities for the people around you and gone, oh shit, we're in trouble. Because we're in big trouble. $1.5 billion shortage in Colorado. And if you live in a different state, your state's probably facing similar things because Republican or Democrat, they don't know how to manage money. Because the consequences of them not managing money and going into a deficit, they've now learned that the people don't have any power. They have this thing called the judiciary that's rotted to the core that can cover up their crimes, and then we can just tax people to death. But when you're already at such a high tax burden like you have in Colorado, there's nothing left to take. You've taken all the fun out of the game. And businesses are not only failing, they're failing at a rate that, frankly, in the next 3 to 5 years, like if I don't make it into the governor's office, or we don't have a Republican goes in the governor's office, or at least someone that can be sensible about it, why would I stick around? I've been here 30 years. Why would I? Because I'm going to fight in a position of poverty and watch people get poorer and watch my family become victims of violent crime because it's so out of control and so rotted with terrible judges that are frankly evil that I'm going to put them in that position. Would you? Now you know why I ran. So here's a report, by the way, that I want you to show you just to add to this, because I didn't even talk about this yet. I didn't talk about the gender ridiculousness and the fact that we can't define what a woman is. We can't keep our kids safe. We have grooming happening by teachers that have blue hair and rainbow flags and pride flags and all sorts of other bullshit on the walls. And we have to continually go through this negotiation with people like, oh, we want to respect people. Bullshit. I don't have to respect shit. A boy's a boy and a girl's a girl. And frankly, that should be the way it is, period. And if you're mentally ill and you think you can dress up like a woman, so be it. You could dress up like a pink dinosaur. But if a teacher grooms or talks about that stuff in a classroom, that teacher should literally be shown the door. Here's a report. Put this up here. Jeffco Schools, Department of Education, just received a 31-page report sent by the U.S. Department of Education to the Jeffco Schools. In case anyone thought they weren't really 61 males playing on girls' teams, here you go. I'll share more from the report soon. They have till March 23rd to comply. Well, March 23rd is, I think it's today. Is it today? It is today. You think they're going to comply? I can tell you they're not going to comply. And that leads me to this. You have a guy running in the race for governor. His name is Victor Marx. Now, Victor Marx has made up everything. He's made up every story in the world about me. He's talked about Scott Bottoms. He's talked about Barb Kirkmeyer. He says that he is the candidate to beat, although he has zero substance and he has no platform. Now, if you go back till September of last year, I was gung-ho. I saw his stuff. I saw a couple videos that he put out, made himself look nice and shiny, like the shiny object. I was like, if this guy runs for governor, I'll support him. Then I went and met him. Well, the first thing that came out away from that meeting is he's not a truthful person. And I was like, we're in trouble. And I met with Scott Bottoms and Barb Kirkmeyer at the time who didn't want to meet with me, which is fine. I have met with her since. She's a wonderful person. She's been in government for 20 years. That's probably my biggest hesitation is, one, she's a woman, not because women can't do it, but because I don't think that Colorado has an appetite to elect a woman to fix the problem on either side of the aisle. That's just a data point. Now, do I think that she could do a good job? I don't know. She's compromised quite a bit with the left, and I don't think compromise is the way you get things done right now. I think someone has to come through the front door and punch him dead. Well, Victor Marx has been popped up and put on this pedestal by churches, by Jeff over at Brave Church and other churches that have frozen out other candidates, including a candidate called Scott Bottoms. Scott Bottoms is a pastor. He's served in the community for the last 20 years, 4 years. He's been at the State House fighting for values. Now, you'd say the conservative values or their pastoral values or whatever, but he's had a great effect on what's happening at the State House, fighting as a representative for the state of Colorado in its capacity for House District 15. I think it's 15, 14, 15. Matt Struck put this up, and Matt Struck is a guy in Colorado who has done, so I'm going to have him on the show. Now, everyone says that it's, Darcy showing and she's the bad person. If you're a part of Colorado politics, you know that Victor Marx has been like, oh, it's Joe's paying Darcy, right? Which he's going to have to answer for that claim because he's made that claim and eroded my ability. So I may sue Victor Marx. We'll see how it works out. But first, Darcy works for me and I'm paying her a bunch of money, which is not true. Then it's Corey Kennedy, and then he gets the goons out there that goes after Corey Kennedy and said, oh, Corey Kennedy is a felon. And you're not going to get a guy like me to say one way or another whether I look at a person based on their character. So I'm not going to say that Corey Kennedy's bad. I don't even know if what you're saying is true. But Matt put this up, and this is Victor again being exposed for using fake claims he rescued 45,000 women and children when he didn't. And this goes back to he got called out on. Hold on. I did not want to sneeze on you. Sorry. But Victor Marx got called out on the big Timber Lodge by Nick Rogers. And then right after he did this, it's like a plane flying in midair, Victor Marx had to change up all his social media. Now, I did come out at the assembly and I was like, look, if Victor Marx ends up being our candidate, I will support him. Right? I did that in Douglas County. Why? Because I don't have an appetite for anyone on the left. I don't think Victor Marx is much better. But the other thing that started to play out is Victor Marx raised $1.6 million under this claim that he saved 45,000 people. And then it says soliciting donations based on materially false claims, inflated rescue numbers to drive fundraisers can violate laws against fraud, wire fraud, and deceptive advertising. Our entire FBI rescued 6,200 children. How many children did Victor Marx actually rescue? Well, he didn't rescue any. And this is where you get into Victor Marx. And he says, is Victor Marx dangerous for Colorado? Side note, local conservative radio host. By the way, this guy, Jeff Hunt, has done nothing but just badmouth me in every way, shape, and form. He sits on this Jeff and Bill show, and he runs his mouth. And when I went on with Peter Boyles, he called Peter. He's like, yeah, he's probably going to talk about me. And I was later talking to Peter, and I was like, Peter, I don't even know who this guy is. But Jeff Hunt, for unknown reasons, not allowing legitimate questions to be answered by Victor Marx. So there's a bunch of things that are happening all at the same time. You have pastors that, frankly, have not looked under the covers and have not questioned the veracity. Look, a lot of things have. The fact of election fraud, they've come after me with both guns barrels going. But Jeff Hunt is now the guy that is the proxy for Victor Marx. And what Matt Struck did is put a couple of examples there. And it says, is Colorado being set up to be destroyed by the left in November? Now keep in mind that the Governors Guild, the National Governors Association, usually puts money into races. They put money into races for governor. and this will be one of the first years in short order in the last recent history that they've elected not to put any dollars into the governor's race in Colorado. The GOP and Jeffco is now encouraging us to go back, put it back up, please, is now encouraging us to be calling out the Republican candidates on the spot in Colorado that cannot win. Is that it? Okay, let's put up this video about Vaughn Kennedy, aka Victor Marks.
After my interview, he changed his statement on his social media from 45,000 rescued to assisted 45,000 people around the globe.
Now, there's another video on that has Jeff Hunt talking about Victor Marks. Can we pull that up too, or no? Can you just quickly get that for me, please? So, and there's some other pictures. Can we put the pictures up real quick, or can we just put it's on the post? So we can just put the post up and then we can look at those pictures. You can just do it while it's up on things. Put it next to me. So this is more than 6,200 children have been located over past year. This is the FBI talking about it. And what's the other one? One more picture. Oh, we're gonna need both those videos, because that is my friend right there, Rich Wyatt. And I don't know if you guys have seen. What was the name of the show? Gunsmoke, where the guy that owned the gun store in Lakewood, Colorado, was all over. It was a show. I mean, he'd get on a helicopter and go out and blow stuff up, 50 cals and things like that. Anyway, Rich Wyatt served, I think, 3 years in federal penitentiary for some things that he did. He got caught up in a deal for having guns, and it was he's a good guy. He's a good guy that got caught in the system. We got those videos yet? And Rich Wyatt does not support Victor Marks. And I don't care if you support him or don't support him. And I'm going to spend a little time on Colorado because I think it's important. And then we'll get to Virginia. But when you have fake people that get propped up, and then you have people that tell you have to support them, you have to wonder, like, this apparatus, this thing that's happening that never favors the people. Man, you can go back 20 years and you can't find where an election caused us to have a better life than we had the years prior, other than when President Trump came into office in 2016. When he came into office, things genuinely got better. You had the Keystone Pipeline, you had all sorts of different deregulation. We had the NAFTA agreement, which was renegotiated, and that's the fair trade agreement that happened between Canada and South and Central America. He did a lot of great things. Got us out of the Paris Climate Accord. He did the same thing this time. Eliminated our position with WHO. Renegotiated what we did with the Blue Hats. Did a lot of things to help us in a very short period of time. Now, same thing can be said for if you look at 2024 when he came in 2025. First 3, 4, 5 months was great, and I think that everyone that is in the radical side that was trying to be a boat anchor just found themselves being ripped and pulled along. Well, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in Colorado that is going to leave millions of people destitute and in the same position as they were back in 2008. Let's go ahead and play this video.
When you have opponents, it's a never-ending stream of it. Of critique and answer this. You got to answer that. You need to provide this answer for me, and why don't you answer that? And I remember, like with Trump, for instance, you have Joe Biden that let in 10 million people. We have all these problems in our country, and they run up and they're like, well, let's talk about Trump steaks. What about Trump steaks? He launched Trump vodka. What about Trump vodka? And you're just sitting there going, I want a guy that's going to focus in on an agenda that's going to help my life. This constant barrage of answer this question for me, answer this question, this accusation all the time, especially when it comes from political opponents, is just exhausting. And frankly, I like a candidate that's going to, address what needs to be addressed, but I don't need them to spend every event talking and answering a political opponent's accusations. I want somebody that's going to provide a vision to solve problems that are in my life. Victor, what's your response to that?
Well, I agree with you 100%.
I kid you not, that's how he answered. That's all he answered. That was the end of the answer. There was a long pause afterwards, and that's it. We have the other video of Rich Wyatt. All right. At the end of the day, the reason why I'm having conversations with other candidates is because I want us to get a unified forward deal that favors the people. And we have to do this in every state. I was pretty upset over the Hope Schepelman deal and the fact that she dropped out of the race against Jeff Hurd. I get it, though. I get it. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. We can negotiate through things that happen in Colorado. I think Hope would have been really good for the state, but I'm going to use the terms that I know President Trump probably used. I'm fucked if you win, and I'm fucked if you don't win. To Hope, as they negotiate her out of this. If you guys don't know, she was in running for the representative seat for Congress that is now occupied by Jeff Hurd. And go ahead, you got it? All right, let's play it.
It's $60. It's a wonderful lunch, and we have a great time. I'm not even sure who we have speaking at the Bar Kirkmeyer. I think 2 other people, though.
I love it.
It's an opportunity to put the candidates on the spot. So maybe that's why you go. Because here's one thing that would be valuable, right? This would be incredibly valuable. There's 467 people running for governor. And most of them have no chance at all. Do you remember all their names? Of course you don't. Okay? And so some of those people, they got to go, right? Because they're just taking up space and they're going to take votes and they're not going to help us win in November. And that's one of the things we struggle with. When you ask a candidate, how much money have you raised? And they say, well, I'm not interested in raising money. That's code for my friends don't think I should run. Okay? I also want to ask you to get hooked up on our social media, Facebook, X, Instagram. It's very important that you do this stuff. You know, man, I think it's important, but it's critical to us. Matt is getting some wonderful videos out there. It's just a little thing. You can do it right before you go to bed and takes about 1 minute. Don't be the people that say, hey, this didn't work right. Be the people that fixed it. Edmund Burke, what's his most famous quote? All it takes for evil to triumph is good men to do nothing. We got to do something, right or wrong, get it moving and get it going.
So then that leads me to the raising money part. So I should probably address this on my own podcast. Joe, why are you not out there raising money? Because we have a primary process in the state of Colorado, and wasting people's money is not something I want to do. And they're like, oh, that's code word for your friends. Now, Rich is my friend, by the way, and he's encouraged me to run and to stay in the race, and I'm not one of the 460-some people that he thinks can't win. He actually does believe I can win, and I can win. Now, with that said, I think we're powerful together. I think there's going to be a conglomerate of people that have to come together. But as a result of this, I'm going to go through the assembly process, and I'm going to self-fund up till the assembly process, other than the people that are gracious enough to say, okay, I'm going to give to you for the primary process, which is fine. They know that every one of the people that's actually given me money knows that my commitment is to the people of Colorado. I've spent the last 6 years doing that, and my commitment is to the people in this country, nationally. And I know what the hell I'm talking about. I just spent the last 30 minutes telling you about it. But I'm not taking advantage of my people inside of my group, and I'm not using an NGO that says that I've rescued people to go raise money for my gubernatorial candidate, as Victor Marks did. I'm not doing any of that. What I'm trying to do is be a good steward that says, okay, now that I've gotten through and I have the people's support, in Colorado, the next step will be, now I need your help. I'm not there yet. And I think that that should be the one thing that we actually do, which is talk about what people can and cannot contribute and whether or not they can or cannot win. Well, that's the dumpster fire of Colorado, so I can get away from that now. Now, I want to show you this. This is Virginia. Whew. This is crazy. This is in Tyson's Corners, a Virginia mall. This is right outside of D.C. It used to be 75% white in the early 2000s. Now, I don't care if you're white, green, yellow, or purple, but take a look at this now. This is in 2026.
All right, everybody. So I'm here in Tyson, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., and this is what it looks like. I could do that again, but I challenge anybody to pause the video and to try and find a single white person. Here. This is in Virginia, in the United States. Why have our demographics shifted this radically? This is a very radicalizing moment.
Well, I'll tell you, here's a cut from Queens, New York.
It is getting crazy. What is this? What is that? Pig? Huh? Guinea pig. Guinea pig? Oh, no. Guinea pig. Oh, no. I thought he said little.
I don't even know what to say right now. They're cooking guinea pigs on the streets in Queens in Manhattan. And here's New York City.
It's not a real place. This chick is out here with one arm, one leg, trying to get traffic for crack. Look at her. Look at her. This shit is not real. Look at this shit.
In other news, the city of Elgin, Illinois, they fired police officer Jason Lentz after he made a post online suggesting that ICE check certain locations for criminal illegals. So he got punished for wanting to crack down on criminals. And you can see where he actually told them where to go check. He said, if I were ICE, I would check in La Mavida at 840 North State Street in Elgin for illegals. Definitely more there. And I wouldn't check the flea, and I wouldn't check the flea market where the old milk pail was. There's no way you'll find any there. Also, wouldn't check the Elgin Mall of East Dundee, which is located at, I guarantee there's no illegals there either. He got fired as an American. So I just want to be really clear. An American got fired for saying that there are illegal criminals in these places. And he's a police officer, and his job is to uphold the law. And ICE's job is to uphold the law. And people are called illegals because they are illegally in the United States. They are breaking the law by being here. And if you think, oh, you're I don't know what you'd call me. What do you want to call me? What nickname do you want to give me? You want to say I'm a racist? Let me just explain something to you. I asked a question of Democrats. How many of you would have an abortion if you had free health care and free child care? This is in Colorado. And about half of the women in the room raised their hands that are actual women. I said, how many of you had I said, how many of you had an abortion? Then I asked, how many of you would still have an abortion if you had free health care, free child care? Half the women raised their hands for saying that they had abortion, and only 10% of them raised their hand if they had free health care and free child care. We have a problem because we're stepping over Americans giving free health care, free child care, free entitlements, free housing, free food, free education, free to illegals, people that are coming here from another country, and we're stepping over Americans, black and brown specifically. We're telling them to genocide an entire generation, and we're telling them that the reason why you should do this is because it'll make you poor. And then on top of that, we're then funding everybody else to get free health care and child care and having them live a lavish life of houses and cars and all sorts of stuff while stepping over Americans. Not just white Americans, any American. And most often, black and brown Americans that have been here for generations. They'd rather just lock those people up while giving these people free stuff. Somalis. But at least we have this. And finally, it seems there's some paperwork that a lawyer lied about that went all the way to the Georgia Supreme Court. Let's go ahead and play this.
So before you sit down,
Yes,
there's
sir.
one more thing I need to ask you about, unfortunately. In reviewing the trial court's order denying the motion for new trial, there are at least 5 citations to cases that don't exist. And there's at least 5 more citations to cases that do not support the proposition for which they're cited, including 3 quotations that don't exist. My understanding is that you prepared the order for new trial, the denial order for the trial court. Were those citations in the version of the order that you submitted to the trial court?
No, Your Honor, I do not believe so. They were not. I did prepare an order. That order was revised.
So those non-existent cases were cited in your initial brief opposing the motion for new trial.
Your Honor, I'm not aware of that, but I would be glad to research that and provide the court with a supplement.
Okay, we'll get a briefing order out directing.
So let me just tell you about this case. Hannah Paynes was appealing her 2023 murder conviction for fatally shooting a 62-year-old Kenneth Herring in 2019. After Herring ran a red light, crashed into a semi-truck and fled, Payne, then 21, followed in her car, called 911, blocked his truck, approached the foot, and shot him during the confrontation. She claimed self-defense, saying he grabbed her gun. Prosecutors called a vigilante action. She was convicted of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated assault, and false imprisonment. She was sentenced to life plus 13 years. Her appeal argues ineffective assistance of counsel, and the trial lawyer didn't raise citizen's arrest or defense of others to bolster self-defense. The Georgia Supreme Court heard it this week on whether she gets a new trial. I just need to kind of put us all together for you as one. You got fake candidates that are propped up, government taking and regulating businesses and giving us nothing in return. You take entitlements. You got people that are outside the country, you get to take from it. You have fake elections and treasonous actors. They're still walking free. You got boys and girls sports. You got guinea pigs being sold on the street, and you look like a foreigner in your own home. I mean, with jobs that are. I mean, it looked more like Iran than it did Virginia. And this is what happens when you have a stolen voice of the American people and people on the outside that puppeteer our politics in our country. And the reason why I brought Joe in and I asked him those questions about Idaho is really simple. We had the woman that was on that talked about the fact that you have a supermajority in every aspect that are all Republican, and yet you have the attack on the people that is just, it's never ending. And no matter what happens, the people seem to always be the ones left out in the cold. And they want to tell us to shut up and sit down. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or independent. Tell me about a whistleblower in the last 30 years that's been treated favorably. Any whistleblower. Any. Give me one. There isn't one. We have, I mean, Clint Curtis was the one that came out and told us about, building a system to steal elections. We talk about the FBI whistleblowers. Well, they did to Seraphin and Steve Friend and Garrett O'Boyles, and the list goes on. And how about, we still haven't talked about the pipe bomber in D.C. that was a woman that worked for the CIA. And yet Steve Baker at the Blaze was basically put ablaze. And all of a sudden he had heart problems. Make it make sense to me. You got young people dying of colon cancer. You got vaccine injuries everywhere. You have the autism rate is through the roof. You got Bobby Kennedy that's out there trying to just re-regulate and get rid of all these chemicals that are in our foods. At the same time, we trust no one. And as Americans, we feel held hostage in our own country. We are becoming largely irrelevant other than we are the tax base and the people that give money to others, so we become the slaves in our own nation. And if that's not enough for you, it doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat or Independent. Listen, everyone, this has nothing to do with political affiliation. This has everything to do with the fact that they hate you, you're an American, they want to replace you, and they want to bring other people in here that they can destroy. So if they can destroy you and take you out, these other idiots will die pretty quick because they've been surviving on the back of you for a very long time. Our leaders are stealing from us. And at some point, we're going to have to get to a place where we recognize that it's not the R or the D that's doing it. It's the people that are closely aligned with each other, this uniparty. And President Trump is probably the only one that, frankly, I don't think he cares if you're a Democrat or Republican. He just doesn't care. What he cares about is, are you a betrayer to the American people? Are you a traitor to the people? Are you committing treason? Did you do bad things to the American people? American people can set things straight. You just stop rigging the system everywhere you turn, and you'll be fine. This is not what the voice of the people should look like. All right, that's all I got. Anything else? You got any comments? Remember, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, tune in and more. Make sure you give me a little thumbs up deal on Rumble and all those things. And then on X, I know I said something I shouldn't have said, and now I'm in the doghouse, it looks like. Let me see. Am I in the doghouse? I think I'm in the doghouse. Yep. Did you guys see that? No, I'm just, at Joe Oltmann. I can't, it's not showing up that anybody's watching the show because it's not showing up on the site. You can hit that as well. We'll do another one on the other side. Jeff says crumble. Okay. Tens of trillions. Neo-feudalism. That is like the word that everyone wants to use now is neo-feudalism. Everyone talks about it. All right. Who else we got here in the thing? Murph, die kids. Yep. See, my mother retired at the civilian equivalent of a lieutenant colonel as a budget analyst at EPA. She was disheartened by all of the bureaucratic fraud. Yeah, it's everywhere. All right. So here's the deal. You guys become the arbiters of reality. Check out that video. Guys, if you could do me a favor and just make sure that that video gets downloaded from Facebook and put everywhere, I'd appreciate it. It's 28 minutes long. You guys will want to watch it. It just talks about what we have to do. But I've now graduated from Democrats are bad to the leadership is bad, system is bad. And yeah, Gammy, you got a picture with me at the assembly. Yeah, so let's pray us out, yeah? All right. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, tune in and more. Go over there, give us a 5-star review. Do all the great stuff. If you're on the audio version, just so you know, Apple has a new video version that they're putting out. I was told that I had to put that out. We're going to hopefully be on that platform here. Did we start that yet, guys? To put it on the audio, the Apple Podcast on the video format as well? Okay, I sent it over, so it should have been done already, but okay. God bless you too, Susan Rice, the good Susan Rice. And kids today, too, garden variety Democrats are decent, just brainwashed by fake news. Actually, some of them aren't even brainwashed. They believe it. They just don't want to be the one to step out and get ostracized, right? They're not necessarily strong people. But the more, I've met a bunch of lawyers that are Democrats, and they're like, Joe, these people are absolutely retarded. And you know, so they don't hold the same principles. They just can't become a Republican because it's generational. They've been a Democrat for all their life. All right. Father God, thank you for today. Thank you for having Joe on and for the truth that he was able to give us on what's going on in Idaho. Father, I just feel like we're heading in a good direction, but a bad direction, and a good, I don't know. It's just a direction at this point. But I also know that the people are both the hindrance to us getting to a conclusion where we're able to reset and to restore you. But they're also the thing that can, I think, help us pull out of this mess that we're in. We know that we are used as you need us, Father. And I just ask that you give us the ability to have conversations with each other and to bridge this divide that we seem to have found ourselves in. Help us that we may pursue truth at all costs and may honor you, Father. And for those that are sick, Father, I just ask you to give them, to lift that burden and to give them the ability to be healed. We know Dave Bear is suffering right now. Lots going on. I just ask you to be there for him and to heal him, Father. Father Mahana, I just want to give him a shout out. Thank you for giving him a voice and for allowing him to speak into the lives of so many as he does here on Untamed. And help us, Father, that we may pursue the relationships that will help us get to a place where we can save our nation and save the world. I say these things, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, what do we got here? Mod Trend. The other side, garden variety Republicans are brainwashed by Fox News. Yes, they are. Blessings to you all, even me. Jeff, what? Come on, man, you guys are killing me. All right, make this episode go somewhere. And if you're supporting Victor Marks, God bless you. You're probably the only one that's not a bot. Just kidding. All right, see you later.
Rising from the fight for the forgotten and the free, exposing rigged machines, Schumer's lies, Dominion's deceit, pays a grand each day, shielding truth from corrupt hall, but he won't back down, standing tall through it all. Martin, Tina Peters break the chains that bind her tight, hand count votes and one day bring the fraud to light. No more mailing scams, no machines to steal the night, restore the people's voice, make Colorado right. Governor Oltmann, lead us voting true, badass for the have-nots, fighting through and through. Abolish property tax, cut the tolls away, shrink the bloated state, let the people have their say. It's our rally call, truth and freedom rise and watch the tyrants fall. Untamed Colorado, strong and proud, we'll be one man for the people, set our great state free. Help the single moms, bring back trade school strong, opportunity for youth, where the brave belong. Audit every NGO, ban the wolves that roam, reclaim our stolen land, bring the power home. Fraud, Dominion's rigged design, expose the stolen votes, cross the dangerous line. No more victimhood, no chains on you and me. He's running for governor for real liberty. Smash the fraud machine, pardon heroes jailed for the have-nots. Rising truth will never fail. One warrior defies the corrupt elite. Colorado reborn, strong on our feet. Governor Oltmann, lead us bold and true. Badass for the have-nots, fighting through and through. Abolish property tax, cut the tolls away, shrink the bloated state, let the people have the say. Governor Oltmann, it's our rally call, truth and freedom rise and watch the tyrants fall. rise up untamed. In the heart of the fight where the wild ones roam, Joe Oltmann's calling, bringing truth back home. From conservative daily to this untamed fire, we shatter the silence, lifting spirits higher. No chains can hold us, no lies can prevail. Authentic and fearless on this rugged trail. Patriots gather under stars and stripes. Untamed nation, igniting the night. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave belong. Yeah, untamed and wild, forever strong. Play it again all night long. Break the mold, chase the real. No more games, time to heal. Joe's voice leads the untamed crew. Truth matters through and through. Untamed nation, let the truth roll out in this land of the free. Standing proud from sea to shining sea, we won't back down. Catch the fire, wear the crown. Untamed nation, it's our battle song, motivating hearts where the brave